It's not about the business plan, it's about the businessman. And I think it sounds great, but I also think it's very important.
Joey Bowen, founder of The Few Will Hunt, intuitive, diligent, and a great leader.
Some of those challenges that you're looking to overcome in your business are actually rooted in the things that you yourself are doing on a daily basis, and they need to be addressed first before you can clear the challenges in your business.
What's something you can tell them to lift them up?
You're stronger, more capable, and smarter than you think.
Hey, traditional marketing is dead. That was probably one of my biggest aha moments when I was sitting down in a crowd watching Joey Bowen, the founder of The Few Will Hunt. Oh, it's on this side. The Few Will Hunt. And I decided I'm going to represent Joey's brand today. As he was a speaker at BK Live, Bedros Keuilian's event in Arizona, and it hit me like a ton of bricks. And the reason why I paid attention to Joey is because he was able to build an incredible community. Then after that, establish a huge clothing line that like big names are getting behind to support. Mm-hmm. And now the few are known everywhere. So Joey was gracious enough to spend some time with me today, give me some tips and tricks, and I hope this adds value to you. Joey, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, man. It was great to connect at BK Live, and I'm happy to be here. Appreciate the opportunity.
Man, your story really, really impacted me. And what was awesome was I had Max, my 15-year-old son, with me at that event. And while you were speaking, he taps me on the shoulder. He's like, "Daddy, we have to go buy their shirts."
That's awesome, man. You get me emotional, man. That's awesome.
It's awesome. But what I realized was it wasn't awesome because he thought the shirt, it's a shirt says The Few. It's not what the shirt says on it. It's what he realized it represents when you wear the shirt. Yes. So let's start off with, what are the few? Like, give me the history of this.
Yeah. So The Few is the name for our community at Few Will Hunt. And like you hit on, we were a community long before we were a clothing company. We were a community for like 2 years before clothing came on the scene. So when you say like, a lot of big names are, wearing Few Will Hunt now, and the hardest workers in the world are wearing Few Will Hunt now. They're wearing it. Yes, it's cool. The quality's high. It's made in America. Designs are dope, all that good stuff. But they're wearing it because of what your son said, what it represents in that community aspect that's still alive and well. If you go to our Instagram page, first thing you'll see, community first. That's what we are before we're anything else. So yeah, it's been a journey, man. We started in 2017, and the game of entrepreneurship, it's got a lot of ups and downs, but one constant that we've always had is a thriving, hardworking, high-achieving community that supports each other in the goals that they're relentlessly going after. And when you put on the shirt, you feel that. You feel that energy. Yeah.
So what was you said we started in 2017, but what were you starting? It wasn't a clothing line.
No, it was a community. That's where we were starting. So my cousin Drew and I spent the entire year of 2017 on the phone during our commutes to and from our offices. And I'm 10 years older than Drew. You didn't meet him he couldn't make it to BK Live, so you didn't meet him there, but I'm 10 years older than him. So I crossed over a lot of bridges in life and business that like he was about to cross over. So we used to spend that time on the phone, talk about life, talk about business, everything in between. And certain themes kept appearing on those calls. People were more and more entitled to what they did not earn, right? Another theme, people were seeking more and more shortcuts on the way to their goals in life and in business. And for Drew and I, like, we're hardworking kids. We're Philly kids, city kids from middle-class families, blue-collar families in Philly. Like, seeing those trends in society and even in our own, like, social circles, it made us angry, honestly. It enraged us, and it also made us feel very alone. Like, we were the only two people left that believed in how powerful hard work could be. Like, in its power to transform your life. So that was the moment I said, everybody wants to eat, but few will hunt, because it's something we say at my hunting cabin. And that was the moment that our community was born. So what we set out to do was find more people like us and build a community to set society back on track. You know, the track that we knew growing up, that our families knew growing up, the track that really built America to what it is today. That's what we set out to do. So for 2 straight years, 2017, 2019, that night we started an Instagram page. And then for 2 years, we just wrote content and built community, asked people to come join the fight. We didn't even have anything for them. We didn't have clothing. All we had really to offer was like, we see a problem and we're trying to connect as many hard workers as possible to solve it.
Do you remember what your first post was?
I don't remember the exact post. We're pretty good with not like archiving any of our posts because we want the community to see our growth. Like who we are now in year 7 is not who we were in year 1. So we're pretty good with archiving our posts. So you could probably scroll back and see it, but I believe it had something to do with like the nature versus nurture argument. You know what I mean? Like, you know, are you born an achiever by blood, or are you nurtured into being an achiever by experience in your surroundings? I'm pretty sure that's what it was. And you can get a taste for like the content that we were doing early on. We were really writing to educate and inspire hard workers like us so that we could strengthen them, because the stronger they were, the stronger our community was, which we believe that means the stronger our society will be, you know? So you can get a taste for, you know, some of the content that we were developing then. Yeah, which hasn't changed much over the years. If anything, it's just gotten a little bit shorter to match attention spans, unfortunately. But
yeah, I totally get it. What did you mean by traditional marketing is dead?
What I mean by that, I realized that was like a bold statement to make at BK Live, and I'm like so pumped it was well received. You know, traditional like yell and sell, what I call yell and sell marketing, like here's my shit, buy my shit. You know what I mean? With no intention behind it or thought, specifically the intention of how does this serve others? Like how does it make them better? You know? And you see traditional marketing all over the place. And there's some giants, titans of industry that can still do that. And it's fine. People will buy their stuff because, you know, over the decades, brand trust has been built. But for new people coming to the game of entrepreneurship, you have no business having a product in your hands until you know how that product is going to serve others and make them better. So that's why, you know, I say traditional marketing is dead, and what's alive and well is community marketing. You know, a type of marketing whose main goal is to leave people better than it found them. And with traditional yell and sell marketing, I see it as very selfish at times and not very like service oriented.
Yeah, I totally agree. So there right now, groups are and communities are popping off everywhere, right? You see Alex Hermosi with school, and I have my Relentless Goal Achievers. I've had them for almost 2 years now. What's the difference between, in your opinion, like communities that stick, grow, members are fully engaged and involved, kind of like the few, versus ones that are, you know, you just got one person in there posting and not a whole lot of, you know, reactions or engagement?
Yeah, you're right. Nowadays, you know, people are starting to wake up to the fact that, you know, and it's ironic because since the dawn of time, we're tribal creatures. We want to be connected to each other, right? But like people are starting to wake up to the fact that people don't want product. They want community and purpose before they want the product, right? So you see all these communities popping up. I think that the determining factor, one of the determining factors between a community that's successful and one that isn't is intention. You know, you can't hide intention, you know, and some of these people that already have brands that are trying to turn them into communities, you can see right through it because their intention is just still to sell stuff. And there's nothing wrong with making money and selling things at all. I'm not demonizing that, but you can see through this like faux community building that they're trying to do because it's still about their product. It's not about their people. You know, people like Alex Hermosi, who now has school and he's following some of those 5 C's that I talked about. You know, you can see it in his marketing. It's very much community marketing. He has pure intention. Like he's a guy that's provided value to people for years, free value, books, shows, everything. So he's one of those guys that like, I see his community pop up and I'm like, yes, let's go. Like, fuck yeah. You know what I mean? Like, add it on. But there are a lot of other people that, the intention just isn't there. I think that's the number one thing. You also said something like, maybe they have a community of like one, and they're just posting. That's still a community if the intention is there. Like when Drew and I started Fuel Hunt, it was me and Drew, two in the few. That's it. And we called it a community then because we knew what our intention was, to find other people, to make them better, and in turn make society better. So even if you're that person and you feel like you're a community of one and you're just screaming into the void, you just got to keep going. If your intention is pure and you want to leave people better than you found them, keep going. Like you'll find your people. Your community will be 2, then it'll be 10, then it'll be 20, then it'll be 50, then it'll be 100. This is how things work. You know what I mean? Compound interest.
What I was talking about when I mentioned one person is like you go into some of these Facebook communities and it just the one person that started the community is the one that's usually posting and gets no engagement, right?
It's tough.
And it's like some of them are good kind of posts, but I don't know if they get value or what. Like, what's the difference? Like, how can they get more engagement?
Yeah, I think that goes to those 5 C's that I talked about at BK Live. And, we've done this in the past too. So like, we're not immune to these mistakes. We've made a bunch of mistakes and that's how we've gotten to where we are. In those type of groups, what I notice often, and I had a coaching client after BK Live, I just had a conversation with her about this last week. In those communities of one where the posts are being put out and there's value in them, a lot of the times those posts are speaking to people and not speaking with people. And that's one of the 5 C's, converse. It's very easy to talk to people. You know what I mean? To put out posts that say, this is what you should do. Do this, do that. This is what I did. You should do it too. But are you really talking with people? That's the main, and it's more than a call to action at the end. It says like, tell me what you think below. It's more than that. You know what I mean? And you have to do that consistently for a very long time before people trust and feel enough trust to open up and say like, hey, look, I agree with what you're saying, but I'm in this situation and I don't see how to apply it. And then that's when that 2-way conversation starts. And that's how the community is built.
What's an example of talking with people?
Yeah, so we do, one of the things that I do here, we do a lot of that, but one of the things that I do that I absolutely love with Fuel Hunt is I write emails to our community. So when you see our emails come out Tuesday, Thursday, Sunday night, Fridays, sometimes it depends. Sometimes I email 4 times a week. I'm looking to have a 2-way conversation with our community. So one of the emails that I send out is what I call the reply email, where, I'm sending an email out to the community. It's usually about one of something that we typically will confront in our community, like risk, fear, sacrifice, pain, something like that. I'll write an email and I'll say, hey, look, like this is what I'm fearful of in my life. I had a conversation with a community member, fear came up. This is what I'm fearful of in my life. And I go first, right? And I lead and I say, look, let's have a conversation. I'll be vulnerable and tell you that I'm fearful that all of this hard work that me and the team have done over the past 7 years won't work out. And like, that keeps me up at night sometimes. What do you fear? And then I ask our community members to respond to me, and they do. And then I have a closed 2-way conversation with them over email. That's my favorite way to do it. We do it in Fuel Hunt Rise, which we have a private community. We do it in there. Every Wednesday night, I'm on a what we call the accountability call in Fuel Hunt Rise, but really it's just a community call where we have conversations like that too in a small group. So there's multiple points of contact within our community where we have those 2-way conversations. And that's I think really, what it comes down to when you see communities of 1 or 2 that aren't growing. It's either they haven't been doing it long enough or they're talking to people and not talking with people.
Okay. What are the other 4 C's?
So we covered kind of 2 of them. So confront is the first one. So that's coming to the table and creating content or a post or whatever and saying, this is who we are. This is what we believe, right? Like our fors and our againsts. So in your example of, maybe a Facebook community, somebody's posting something and there's value in it. That has to do with identity, right? Who those people in that community are. More than likely, that post, there's a valuable conversation to be had based on the confrontation that's going on in that post. So confront is the first one. Converse is the second one, right? Which we talked about, that two-way conversation that the leader of the community must lead to build trust, to have responses come back to her or to him. Then we have challenge, which is super important.
Real quick, Joey, I'm sorry to interrupt you. The question that comes up in my mind for the converse, let's say the community is in Facebook, right? It's a Facebook group, and the leader's authentic, shows up and says, hey, talk to somebody about fear. Here's what I'm fearful of. And let's say it resonates with people. How important is it for it to be a private two-way conversation versus keeping it within the group?
That's a great question, man. That's a great question. And before, when I was at BK Live, I shared some of those reply email responses, or at least one of them. I always ask if I can do that before I share them, because it's it's an intimate connection. It's a private connection. I think that it varies based on the topic that you're confronting. And I also think that it varies by medium. So if it's over email, I tend to keep it private because that's a more private channel. If it's over social, I don't expect, like say it's an Instagram post, I don't expect to get a ton of replies if I ask people, on Instagram, what they're fearful of, So
if you ask them to DM you, would that work?
Yeah, sometimes they do. Yeah, sometimes they do. And the beautiful thing about Fuel Hunt at this point is the community knows that we're here to support each other, and the expectation has been set that we're here to talk with each other. So we'll get DMs without prompting often. We got a really powerful one this week that I can't talk about, but we got it 2 nights ago, and that was completely unsolicited. The community member just sent a DM in and, needed help and wanted to talk through some things with someone that understood them. So that's like one of the beautiful things that was born from from that C.
That's amazing. Why do you think they felt comfortable enough? Like what were all the things that were done for them to say, okay, I got my family here. I'm not going to talk to them. I got my friends. I'm not going to talk to them. I'm going to reach out to the guys at the Fuel Hunt.
Yeah. So Bedros talks about know, like, and trust a lot when it comes to marketing. And that know, like, and trust applies to community marketing as well. The determining factor that made that gentleman comfortable with sending that DM was the fact that we've shown up for him and the community consistently every single day since 2017. We've posted some type of value post. We usually post them in the morning. We call them our OGs. It's a black and white content only post. There's been consistency there, and they feel that they can trust us because no matter, look, we've got a ton going on here. We're humans, right? So we have our ups and downs. We have things going on in our families. Despite all that, we've shown up for the community. That's built trust with our community, that we will show up when they write us, so that's definitely one of the things. And then, the other thing I would say is we're very clear. We have the rules of the few. We're very clear about who we're about. So I feel as though our community says, these are people that I know will get me because we're all singing from the same hymnal. You know what I mean? We all live our life the same way. And the reality of it is, sometimes your friends and your family, you love them, but many times you don't choose them. And many times they don't live their lives exactly the way you do. So if you have somebody in your life that is really on the same page as you, that sometimes transcends blood. Sometimes.
You know what I found fascinating about you, and not just from your speech, but actually us having a conversation, is how authentic you are in truly adding value. Like, I think that's the missing link. I think even with me, when I'm addressing the community, I have a free group, I have a paid group. There's always this little intention, like, how do I add value to them so that they can go and join the group, so that they can go buy? But you're not doing that. I feel like with you, it's just, there is no so that. I just want to show up, add value to my people with the hopes that it makes their life better,
Yep.
that it inspires them.
That's exactly right, man. When I got up there and I said, hey, look, community marketing is about leaving people better than you found them. And I apologized. I was like, hey, I know that sounds kind of straightforward, but it's like, that's the key. Like, you have to show up with pure intention and no expectation. And the thing is, the rest of it takes care of itself. It really does. Now, does it take care of itself on your timeline? They are my timeline? It doesn't. But in the long run, it does. It takes care of itself. People will come. They will join your community. People will buy your product. It'll all happen in good time. You know,
just show up.
Yeah.
No, I love that so much. Okay, and we're gonna get to the last few C's.
Yeah.
People are. We didn't really set the stage. So for those who don't know about the few, or the few will hunt, how many employees do you guys currently have?
We are a small, mighty team of about 6.
6 employees. You're the co-founder.
Yes.
And what's the monthly or annual revenue that you're now experiencing through your
multi seven figures?
Is that per month or year?
Annually.
Okay. Multi 7 figures annually. So like, if you're sitting there and you're wondering, like me, oh, how do I have time to do this?
Yeah.
If a guy who co-founded a clothing line, you can imagine the challenges that come with that every single day, with people not getting their order, or potentially I got the wrong color, wrong size. I got human issues. Somebody didn't show up for work. Like, you're now a CEO of a company still talking about, I write my emails. I have one-on-one conversations with my community. To me, what I'm seeing is you love your community. You love your people. Like, it's all love for them, and it shows.
Absolutely. And you can't, without that, it doesn't work.
No,
it just doesn't work. Like, and it's hard in the beginning. Many people that start communities, they disengage, or they get disappointed because that like love isn't there in the beginning. Like, it's not palpable, but it's your job as a leader to just find that love between you and one other community member. And then it propagates. You know, it's no different than nature and life, right? You find your mate, you know, you have love, and then a family's created from that. You know what I mean? So it's like, it's the same thing. But one thing I didn't speak about in BK Live, like, I have 3 driving rules for myself in my life. They are 3 things that drive the choices I make on a daily basis. And the third one is actually love more than you loathe. So like, on a daily basis, I choose to focus on love over hate, you know, and one way that shows up in my life is, you know, I don't pay attention to mass media. You know, I don't let the government or the news channel tell me who I should like and should not like. You know what I mean? I think freely, and I focus on the love and the connection that's in my life. So you're very, very accurate and astute to pick up on the fact that I love the few. Yeah, I love them.
Yeah. Awesome, man. All right. What are the other C's?
So where we leave off, challenge.
Yeah, confront, converse, challenge.
Yeah, challenge. So super important when you have a community. People love to do hard stuff together, right? That's a tale as old as time, right? So challenging your community is very important. We do that in a number of ways here. We have a live event, the Few Fest, where we get together, go on a super long ruck, and, you know, do some group workouts. We also have virtual stuff. We do 30 for 30 every month, which is 30 days straight of some type of action. You know, it could be cold plunge, could be push-ups, you know, whatever. Typically there's a physical component. So challenge is super important because that strengthens the bond, you know? And if you remember at BK Live, I said that, you know, community is the thing that really transforms your brand into a bond. What you want nowadays is a bond, because that's what people want. You know, we're so disconnected nowadays. They want a bond. So challenge, super important. Cheer, right, is the 4th. And that's really celebrating your community, and not just your community as a whole, but individuals in your community, which I did during my talk at BK Live. I highlighted some of our community members, and it's not always about celebrating their wins. Sometimes it's about celebrating the fact that they picked themselves up after their loss, you know? So celebration is really important. And again, something that builds trust with other community members. Like, okay, look, like, you know, this person lives the fuel hunt lifestyle, has a connection with the community, is being celebrated in the community for a win or a loss. People in the community start to see themselves in that person, and then they'll open up a bit. Makes the community stronger, makes our society stronger, you know,
For sure.
in turn. And then the last C is convert. And that's what we were just talking about a little while ago, right? Money gets a bad rap in society. You know, money's the root of all evil, blah, 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 blah. It is when the person that has it has negative intention, right? But money, I believe, is actually a maximizer, a magnifier of meaning and impact. So that fifth C, convert, is about after you've poured into your people, you giving them something that will continue to make their life better in some way. That also involves an exchange of funds. And then you can use those funds to pour back in your community to grow it and ultimately grow your impact. And it's last for a reason. Because like I said, when you show up, or, you know, you astutely said, you show up authentic, love your people, pour into them, the rest takes care of itself. The convert takes care of itself, you know. But I'd be remiss if like I didn't explain that like there needs to be a selling environment, your product needs to be great, and you've got to have great people behind it and like all that good business stuff. You know, that's where the business comes in. That C. I think everything before that is really, you know, about satisfying human needs.
Service.
You know? Yes. And service. Yes.
So you mentioned, I think there were 3 human needs.
Yes. Did I think I went over that at BK Live.
You did. Yeah. Do you remember what they were?
Yeah. To belong, to create identity, and to have meaning in life. So those are those human universal needs that I think traditional marketing ignores. You know, it's a yell and sell, like, here's my thing, buy it, because it's, you know, the best fabric, and, you know, the fabric was massaged by, you know, some type of practitioner before it was sewn or something, which is like all cool. Like, it's all cool, but it's all features. It's not really like benefits, and specifically, how does this thing satisfy who I am at my core? Like, how does it make me feel like I'm a part of something bigger?
And it's like that. It's like that famous speech by Steve Jobs, right? Where it might have been a commercial, right? We're the misfits, we're the whatever. Yes. I can't remember, but I just remember that word misfits, and and that resonated with me because I always thought I was a misfit.
Exactly. I mean, and you know, you bring up a really critical point. Like, sometimes communities, especially ones that are just starting, they haven't planted that flag and said, like, here's what we're for and here's what we're against. And also here's what we call ourselves. Like, here's who we are. Like, that is important when it comes to belonging, because otherwise you kind of don't know what you belong to. Like, it's this community, you know what I mean? And we all believe the same thing. And it's like, well, yeah, but who are you? Like, what's the flag that you've planted? You know what I mean?
Yeah. So a couple of questions with that, right? It's like, how much time was spent outside thinking through, what are we for? What are our values? What's the vision? Mm-hmm. I'm sure the vision came as you guys grew, but the what we are for and what we are against, like, did you have a meeting where you sat down and specifically thought about that?
Not really. I mean, it was pretty much, you know, who we are and our DNA, like I said, like how we were raised and where we come from, like this city, and the characteristics of this city in particular. The rules of the few themselves, like, I sat down one day and I just wrote them. And I remember I sent them to, you know, Drew, and I sent them to Brianna, and they were like, yep, let's go. Like, good to go. Like, they just like went through it. And it was because it's just who we are as people. And the, you know, mass media, you know, some of the other, you know, larger entities out there, they'll have you convinced that there are not people like the few out there anymore, but there are. And we're living proof of it.
What are you for and what are you against?
For hard work, for service, for freedom. I mean, they're the 3 pillars of the community: freedom, right? Service to others, hard work. So that sums that up. Obviously, risk. I'm not a risk adverse person. There's some other ones, but those three are probably the key ones. The against list is pretty easy nowadays. Entitlement, we're against that. We're against shortcuts. We're against the victim mentality. We're against a low growth mindset, like, you name it. The unique thing about us, though, is going back to that, like, love more than you loathe. We try very hard to build more bridges than we do dig trenches. So you don't see us often running around saying like F lazy people, F the entitled. We're much more interested in saying like, okay, you're super entitled. Like, help us understand why. And have you thought about maybe doing life this way? Like, we're much more growth focused than we are interested in being their adversary, And Instagram and social media would probably love it if we were the algorithm. The machine would probably love it if we were out there demonizing people more often, but this is not who we are.
Yeah. You're authentically you.
Yeah.
I love that. What I think makes you super unique is how aware you are of what you stand for. Because a lot of people they know it's who they are. They know kind of wrong from right and right from wrong, but they can't express that. It's like, how old are you now, Joey?
42.
You're 42. I'm 44.
Mm-hmm.
For the past, 41 years, you've been standing up all on your own.
Mm-hmm.
But if I was to say, hey, describe to me every single thing that has to happen for you to be able to stand up and sit back down, you're like, oh, I don't know. The thought has to come in, blood has to rush. Like, we don't.
Like, wait a second, hold on. You go through a couple motions. Yeah.
I mean, you're a professional stander-upper. It's probably one of the longest things you've known how to do.
Right.
And we can't even explain that, right? So people truly don't know their values. And I really admire the fact that you've sat down, wrote it out, send it to people. And then the next question is, how do you communicate that to the community? Kind of like, I have a good friend, Martha Krejci. She has a bat signal. She kind of uses backwards, but she's like, it's like you put the bat signal up and Batman knows like, oh, that's where I need to be right now.
Yeah.
How do you do that with those values?
Yeah. So it goes back to that first C, confront. And confront sounds adversarial, but it's actually not. It's us standing up. No pun intended, because we were just talking about, professional stander-upper, but us standing up and kind of like putting the bat signal out there and saying like, hey, look, these are the rules of the few, and then every morning when we post our OG, it's also the same thing. Like, this is what we stand for. That's the way we start every day, confronting, saying like, hey, this is what we stand for. You're either with us on this mission or you're not. And if you're not, have you thought about doing life this way? Because there's like a place for you here if you want it. So it's really just communicating consistently every day, what you're for. And we do that with the rules of the few and ROGs. We also, every order that goes out, Caroline includes a rules of the few magnet.
Yeah, we got one.
Yeah, right. So, made in the USA as well. Rules of the few magnet that has them all on there. And I make the joke, and I may have made it at BK Live, that like we get tagged in more refrigerator photos than like Samsung, Kenmore, Frigidaire, like all those brands, because people post it on their, they slap it up on their refrigerator, and then they always post it because it's a good reminder. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I got one. The one that I always have, and I had Jason Redman on here, but I got his refrigerator. I got one on the magnet, and I got one here, and this is very inspiring to me. I got to get the rules of the few over here somewhere, but I do have right here.
Very nice.
Yeah, it's Brandon BK, but this is your guys' design. Average is enemy.
The craziest thing about that, like, that's how the relationship with B started. Like, we had no idea. We had no idea that he was in our community. We had no idea that he was buying our stuff, and he popped up doing a keynote with that shirt on. Average is the enemy. And it's now become, like with his BK show, you know what I mean? It's become like larger than life, that statement.
That's so huge. How'd you come up with that?
The average is the enemy?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was one of those things early on in probably 2018, maybe. Um, I wrote it as a content post, or OG, in the morning. I was sick at the time. I recall, like, I was sick of, again, talking about like love more than you loathe. I was sick of walking through society and my neighborhood specifically and seeing everybody hate each other for what they believed politically and treat each other like enemies. And I was like, look, like, average is the real enemy. Like, if you're not, if you don't have a healthy mind and healthy body, right, that should be your public enemy number one, because you're not thinking clearly. And those deluded or cloudy thoughts have you thinking that your neighbor that you should love, your neighbor, is your enemy, when really the enemy's inside of you. You know what I mean? Address that first, and I guarantee you're not going to be chasing after your neighbor because of the lawn sign they have. You know what I mean?
So I totally know what you mean. And I think at some point, human nature, usually at a lower level of awareness, that we don't want to take the blame or responsibility.
Oh, yeah.
And it's so much easier to say,
of course,
my life is fucked up because of them or them or them.
Yeah.
And you make me angry, right? Or you make me just.
That's the thing. Like, it comes with it. You, like you said, you have to accept total ownership of your life. And as humans, not making excuses, but as humans nowadays, with the way that society has evolved, many people aren't equipped to do that. And we like to think at Fuel Hunt that we're equipping people to do that. You know what I mean? Not everybody that joins our community is like, actually, you know, it's probably a healthy split. Not everybody's super fit, you know, thinks really highly of themselves, super confident. You know, people are coming in to build those tools, you know, to rid average from their life through action, you know? So we like to think at Fuel Hunt that we're helping people reach that level of awareness and giving them those tools to actually own their shit and own their life.
Yeah, I love that, man. If you were building this now, like if you had to start a community now, and by the way, 2017, I think people's attention span may have been like 7 seconds. Now it's like 4. Right?
Yeah.
What would you do to grab attention now if you were starting over?
To be honest, I do the same thing. But I do it with, I'd really root myself in the fact that I'd have to do it for longer than I thought. You know what I mean? That would be the only thing that I would mention, but I do the same thing. Those 5 C's and those 3 A's of community, I follow that blueprint, but I would just tell myself that it needs to be done way longer and more consistently than you think, and that your words have power and what you're doing is reaching people. It's just going to take a little bit of time before you can recognize that, before they trust you enough to open up and say, hey, I was going through a really hard time a year ago and your stuff got me through it. We hear that all the time. It's not just people that are in the moment that need to speak with someone that shares their identity. You know, it's people that come into our community and send us the DM and say, hey, look, like, you know, I never told you this, but a year ago I went through this thing, and seeing your posts every day got my mind right. That's a year old. That's a change that's a year old. So you really just, it feels like you're screaming into the void, but you just have to keep at it. You have to keep at it.
That's the best. And one thing for those who that message just resonated with, perhaps it's your people that are listening to this and watching this podcast, I would share this, that there's only energy and matter in our universe, right? Those are the only 2 kind of things that exist. And ideas are energy. And so energy is always flowing from a higher source to a lower source. Whether you believe in God, you believe in a higher power, or you don't, energy scientifically is always flowing from a higher source to a lower source. That's why you got energy grids going to power lines, going to your community, going into the little wall socket that you can plug your light bulb into, right? Always. And ideas are just like that. So when you have the idea to start a community, you're going to get attacked internally by self-doubt and fear. And you're going to have to answer questions internally and reason with the questions that pop up that say, who the hell are you to start a community? how are you unique? What's different about you? And what I hope you can do is just say, if I got that idea, that means I'm meant for it. That means that I'm the one that's supposed to carry that out. And if you just do that and take one action at a time, I think you'll see your idea come to fruition. I think that's what happened with you.
It absolutely did, and that was so well said. We were on the exact same page when it comes to energy, and I take it even as far to say that the reason that people wear Fuel Hunt is because when they wear it, they feel that energy. They feel that energy from 2017 all the way forward, when it was just Drew and I, the first two in the few, and then they feel all the energy of our community and how it's grown over the years. They feel it. They feel it in the fabric. They do.
That's
And
awesome.
I had yesterday we had the gang in from Johnny Slicks, Nick and Allie from Johnny Slicks, and they have a great story. They're another badass American-made company. They have a great story, and I said the same thing to them. When people screw the lid off of this pomade, right? They can feel the fact that Johnny back in the day sold plasma to fund the company because he had an idea, right? And he knew he was meant to carry it out, and that level, like, you said awareness a couple times, like society has been very successful in dampening our awareness of like how powerful we truly are. And so well said, man. Such a great message for your listeners and your viewers to take to heart.
Thank you. Are you in Philly or New Jersey?
Philly. Yeah,
You're in Philly.
Yep.
So is there any correlation for the few? Because, Marine Corps was founded in Philadelphia.
Ton Tavern.
Tavern.
Yeah, Ton
Yeah.
Tavern. So we, when we do our rocks, we do go through Ton Taverns, the original site of it. Sadly, it's basically, it's in the middle of, the original site is basically in the middle of I-95. Sadly,
Oh, no, I haven't been to the original site. I've been to the site where it's like a pole and there's a sign that says this is the
so they put they put the pole there because they could have put it in the middle of the road, but it's like the actual location is like, I guess, like maybe 40 yards, which would be east of that pole. There's a movement to actually rebuild Ton Tavern to its original state, like, and make it a historic place. I don't know if it has much traction. I'd love to see that happen, but no hard line actually between those two things.
Maybe it's the energy of Philadelphia, right? Like awesome stuff that gets created in Philly is the few.
I believe that that energy is present there and gets carried out through other mediums, like, you know what I mean, and other people over the years. So I'm not doubting that.
Sure.
Yeah.
As a Marine, I can appreciate it, and it has a deeper meaning to me than just the few will hunt.
Yep.
Awesome, Joey. What's one advice that you can? I'm sure you give a ton of advices, but what's one advice that you could give to somebody who's just right on they're starting a business, they're struggling, they're getting rejected, they're looking for potentially going back to the workforce and getting a W-2 because they don't believe that it could happen for them. What's something you can tell them to lift them up?
Yeah, I would say that you're stronger, more capable, and smarter than you think. I think it goes back to that awareness thing. Society will dampen your talents. Don't allow it to. Look at yourself and live your days with a system or a framework that empowers you. That's what I do. I have my 3 rules: create more than you consume, embrace more than you escape, and love more than you loathe. And I base all my thoughts and decisions on a daily basis on those 3 things. And that gives me what you need really in life, but also in business, like being relentlessly resourceful. So that's what I would say. I would say, like, have your sit down, be aware, write down a system, you know what I mean, for yourself on a daily basis that sets you up for success. And that will then flow into the challenges that you have for your business and help you be more resourceful. There's a saying, a friend of mine, Nick Long, says it. He says, it's not about the business plan, it's about the businessman. And I think it sounds great, but I also think it's very important. Some of those challenges that you're looking to overcome in your business are actually rooted in the things that you yourself are doing on a daily basis. and they need to be addressed first before you can clear the challenges in your business.
Man, I love that so much. So when people are looking at, like, if I got a 10,000 foot view of the Fuel Hunt, the free community on Instagram is probably the entry point.
Mm-hmm.
Where is the buyer, not the buyer, but where's a community member, kind of what's their journey?
Yeah, many community members join our community, and that's that. And they, want to be part of something bigger, and they realize that our content will help them be better. And that's where it starts. And sometimes community members will stay there, right, as at that place in our community for a year, before they make the decision that they want to represent Fuel Hunt and purchase a rash guard or a t-shirt. You know what I mean? And then for our most, the people that I say, like, they're really my people, like in the community, for our most dedicated people that are dedicated to the Fuel Hunt lifestyle and the massive impact that we're trying to have on society, that's where Fuel Hunt Rise comes in. And that's our private community. It's really just a deeper level of connection, right, within our community. And that's not for everybody, like, right away. Usually you have to be in the community for a little while, get to know some people. You have to trust us. Like, hey, does this guy really, like, believe that comfort's a slow death? Is he living his life that way? Like, you have to be around for a little while. But once you realize that we're about what we talk about, then Fuel Hunt Rise is typically for you. And that's a private paid community.
And is that where you have the challenges?
Challenges are actually open. Yeah,
Open.
They're public. Yeah,
Very
so they're on Instagram, and you're right. That's kind of the entry point. That's our public community, our Instagram page. They're all open. If you're a member of Fuel Hunt Rise, you not only get, like, all of the deeper level connection in the community, but you get a bunch of great, like, gear stuff benefits too. So you get, like, a discount on gear, and then you also get free admission to the live events, the live challenges. So it's all kind of tied together.
Yeah.
All kind of tied
And
together.
then the next level is you got the live events, and then you have obviously the apparel.
Yeah, the apparel and the fightwear. Yep.
What's the dream? Where are you 5 years from now?
Bigger, larger community, 1 million community members served, in any capacity. That doesn't mean, 1 million customers, 1 million people that have bought things. It doesn't mean that. It means 1 million community members served. And, we're about 200,000 community members served at this point. You know what I mean? In 5 years, 1 million community members served, even larger, thriving HQ, further build out. Some grappling seminars and super fights here. We've got big plans. Yeah.
Dana White, watch out.
You never know. You never know. It's just the beginning.
Joey, I love this conversation, man. Is there anything I didn't ask you that you're kind of like, it'd be cool for people to know?
No, I mean, other than, where to find us at Fuel Hunt on Instagram, fuelhunt.com. And then, there are your jump off points to anything you want. You can join the community, you can gear up, learn more about Fuel Hunt Rise, learn more about the live events we've got coming up. So no, other than that, this was great, man. Like I said before the show, I just like jamming and, talking about the few and Fuel Hunt and providing value to your listeners and your viewers. So this was amazing, man.
Likewise, brother. I mean, you really touched me. You touched my son, who's 15 and kind of untouchable by his dad, right? Like, it's cool that he wants to do stuff with me, but I could tell him 17 things and then somebody else comes along and he hears that message, right?
That's how it goes, though, man. Like, my daughter's 8 and I still have, that positive influence on her, but I can see it, like, waning a little bit. Probably just because, she hears it from me so much. She needs to hear it from, like, a fresh set,
Exactly.
What I mean? The lips or whatever. So
yeah, we just got to let our egos out of the way and know sometimes we're not the best one that's going to deliver the message. But your speech was so impactful on him. I just want to say how grateful I am for you. Glad we met. And I'm going to have all the links, obviously, below this, wherever you're watching or listening. So definitely check it out. And look, what Joey stands for, I know will make our world a better place. And so if you don't mind, go follow his page, share it out, let your friends know about the Fuel Hunt. And I guarantee you, waking up with a positive message is one of those things that'll just could set your day into a different trajectory. Joey, thanks for
Absolutely.
being here.
Thank
Thank
you,
you guys
brother.
for tuning in.